everybody, and welcome back to the Pierce the Canvas podcast. Oh my god, what a night of wrestling we had here. One of the best in any recent memory at all. This tops most of the wrestling events that took place this year. Pretty amazing night. How is everybody doing? It's been a little while since I've been here. Thank you so much again for joining for your coverage for AEW Dynamite. And today we had AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, Night 1. So the story of that being that it's AEW's largest crowd in history, over I think like 19,000 fans, Arthur Ashe Stadium, AEW's first official stadium show, and they went nuts on this card. So for us being the TV viewers, for our experience, it's going to be two 2-hour shows that we're getting. So starting with today, we got the Dynamite show. We have an extended Rampage this Friday as well, an extra hour of action. So just think about the amazing night those fans are having in New York City, man. They get 4 hours of this, like freaking crazy. It's still going on. They're probably watching CM Punk wrestle right now as we speak. So the Friday night show will be taped. Today's show was live, and we had some amazing matches here. As we, of course, the anticipated dream match: Brian Danielson versus Kenny Omega. We had Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes, Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker for the women's title, and to something I just absolutely did not expect whatsoever. They opened with like the main event, basically the Brian Danielson versus Kenny Omega match. I was absolutely not anticipating that. I definitely thought that they were going to close the show with that match. And basically, they got into the show, and we got the fireworks. We got to see all the sea of fans, the announcers doing their thing, and then they get the entrances going. And that's when I noticed that there's like this amazing LED stage that they have. They actually went all out for the show, no pun intended. But they went like full budget pretty much. So they have this nice LED ramp. There's all these lights on the stage. Just everything looks great. It's like a beefed up version of the normal Dynamite setup. And dude, like I don't think I've heard a crowd this loud in years, man. Like this was 19,000 people, sounded like 45, 50, 60, 70,000 people. They were so freaking loud during these entrances. And then once the two competitors got in the ring, and like the Rock versus Hogan, like just that electric moment, just that moment of they're just both in the ring, and this is like a big fight feel. It was literally that, and the crowd was just on fire beyond belief. It was really crazy to see. So into the match here, Omega starts backing Bryan into the ropes, hits a chop, and that gets the crowd to start chanting, "You fucked up." Bryan returns with a kick. Bryan kicks Omega out of the ring, and we start getting the fuck him up, Bryan, fuck him up chants. Bryan starts breaking out the joint manipulation, signature joint manipulation, stomping on Kenny's hand, corners him for chops and kicks. Bryan pushes Omega's shoulder first into the ring post, lands a top rope knee onto his arm. Bryan's able to perform his comeback, which, like, seeing it in AEW was legit just surreal. It literally just felt like WWE for a sec. Because, you're so used to seeing that, he climbs to the top rope, flips off, hits the ropes, does his, like, clothesline or whatever. He does his corner kicks, as well as a top rope Rana for a 2 count. Omega's able to land a Rana of his own. As well, he's able to land his signature tope on the outside. Bryan Danielson is able to lock in a cattle mutilation until a rope break. Lands a top rope knee to Omega on the outside. Lands his signature kicks on the stage. So now they're actually like fighting on the stage, and at one point Kenny gets the upper hand and lands a snap suplex right onto what the announcer says a plexiglass ramp. Kenny walks down the stage, literally like walks toward the stage, like right at the top of the stage, while Bryan is basically ringside at one point. Kenny runs full speed for the biggest V trigger I've ever seen in my life, and they literally went straight to commercial after that. They made sure you're not going anywhere, because that was one of the most harsh V triggers I've ever seen. So back from commercial, Omega lands a massive buckle bomb, heads up top for a missile dropkick, lands it to the back of Bryan. Omega's attempting a Snapdragon. Brian rolls him up for a near fall. Kenny lands a heel kick as well as a V trigger. He also attempts a top rope dragon suplex. Brian's able to slip out, lands a back suplex to, or actually a back superplex to Omega at this point. The guys at this point are having a great strike exchange. Kenny lands another V trigger, as well as an elbow strike from Danielson for a suplex and pin combination for a near fall. Brian's heading up top. Kenny gains advantage, lands the top rope avalanche dragon suplex for a near fall. And Brian sold it. He flipped and he belly flopped, so he sold it really well in the sense that it was a safe fall, even though he landed hard on his chest and stomach. At least he didn't land on his neck or anything, because that was from the top rope. Omega's able to land a V trigger, picks up Brian for a one-winged angel. Danielson's able to land a reverse Rana. Danielson evades the V trigger, lands a huge head kick, runs for, I believe he was attempting the knee, a signature knee or something like that. Omega evades at this point, lands a V trigger for a near fall. Kenny they gave him so many V triggers in this match, dude. He was just killing this guy. Omega heads up top. They were both killing each other, don't get me wrong. Omega heads up top, attempts a Phoenix Splash, misses, nobody home. The announcers actually mentioned that was the first time in almost 2 years that he did that since the Lights Out match against Jon Moxley, which he also missed. Brian lands several of his kicks to the body and to the head, stomps out Omega's face, rolls Omega for a label lock. Omega's pretty quick to escape. Brian lands corner dropkick before eating a V-trigger. They continue to exchange strikes. The strike exchange literally just leads right into the time limit. So they reached it. By this point, it was around 9:34. The match was announced to have a 30-minute time limit. They mentioned it a couple times. And so, yeah, they were just striking and they just went into a time limit. Both guys kind of just collapsed and they just continued fucking trying to fight each other. I think actually Brian was mostly still attacking Kenny at this point. So the Young Bucks come out for the save. The rest of the Elite as well ended up showing up. And Brian is just dead in the corner basically, and Adam Cole super kicks Danielson's head off. Jurassic Express and Christian come to save the babyfaces. And ladies and gentlemen, this was one of the best matches in this company's history, in my opinion. I loved this match, dude. I don't know, maybe I'm just coming off a high right now, because it kind of just happened, but I literally just wrote 5-star match, after all my notes here. That was freaking amazing, and so we got a draw here. So they didn't let either guy get a loss. I think that's the absolute smartest thing they could have done. Danielson just coming in shouldn't lose. What the hell? He's one of the most powerful names in the entire industry. You can't just beat the guy in his first match, right? So glad they didn't do that. If you bear with me here, I'm just going to up my volume a bit. I realize it's just kind of low. That might be a bit better. So yeah, absolutely amazing match. I will give that 5 stars as it stands right now. Maybe in hindsight later on it won't be, but yeah, that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So next up, CM Punk addresses Team Taz. CM Punk addresses the match we just witnessed first. He basically says, dude, I'm glad I'm not wrestling on this show, because that's impossible to follow. Which, hey, I don't blame him for saying that. Says it's been a long time since he's been in New York City. It's been a long time since pro wrestling's been in New York City. Punk says that people want the old CM Punk. Says that, we'll see him eventually. And you should be careful what you wish for. He addresses Powerhouse Hobbs. Says no one in the crowd even likes him. Says that, during Punk's entrance, he tried to keep, his mean mug, but he basically just says, oh, I couldn't help it. The crowd is, absolutely amazing. I had to crack a smile. Says that Hobbs and Hook tried to put Punk through a table last week. He kind of just, bounced off the table, and the table just fell over. He didn't even go through it, which looked pretty brutal. Says when he comes out, his pissed off feeling goes away because AEW's a love fest. Says he's really happy to see us. Says that Hobbs is trying to take this away from him. They don't want to see CM Punk happy. enjoying the wrestling fans. He says it's been since so long since he's had this, so long since he's needed this. Says that this is his again. He has wrestling again. Hobbs should have finished the job, put him through the table, broke his neck. Should have made sure no one got to hear Cult of Personality again. Says they made a mistake. They let him live. They slept on the legend of CM Punk. Says it's time to tuck his ass in. Power Hobbs goes to sleep this Friday on Rampage. Really, really great promo, obviously, from CM Punk. We're living in a universe here where we freaking got Brian Danielson and Kenny Omega followed by a freaking CM Punk promo, man. Like, what can I tell you? It's the best time in history to be a wrestling fan. Next up, we had MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr., who had Julia Hart at his side. And before anything, I noticed the MJF is a cuck sign. That was pretty freaking hilarious. So the match starts off with a strike exchange. At one point, MJF slaps Pillman hard, slaps a taste out of his mouth. However, Pillman's able to return with a slap of his own, knocking MJF down. MJF targets the shoulder during this match, so he's like throwing Pillman into the corner, like shoulder first, and throwing him onto the floor, exposing his shoulder. Pillman is able to land a mid-rope high cross at one point, as well as a thrust kick, and does the classic face shots into the turnbuckle. I think he landed 9, and at one point he's about to do an outside drop kick, but MJF grabs Julia, sacrificing Julia, but he didn't actually land it. After that, Julia got pissed off and got in MJF's face, pushed him. Pillman was able to land a kick through the ropes. Pillman attempts a springboard clothesline. MJF is able to lock in Salt of the Earth for the win. So MJF here getting his win back from having lost to Jericho. And yeah, Pillman did need to win this match. You know, he's just starting off. This is easily the biggest match in his whole career. I thought it was pretty great. I think Pillman has all the potential in the world. He's just such a model babyface. He's like the most typical wrestling babyface, in my opinion, from what I've seen. I even love his entrance music. He's like the model babyface. And yeah, it was right for him to take the loss here, you know, in his first really big match in AEW. So congrats to Pillman, you know, even though he didn't win. Great match, and it's only up from here for him. So next we had Marvez. He was with Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. Jake Hager calls the Men of the Year the Boys of the Week. And I think he called Lambert a fat-faced dipshit again. Jericho says that Page and Sky made the biggest mistake in challenging these two. Says they're the toughest team in AEW. He says he's going to bite, I don't know which one between Page or Sky, but he's going to bite one of their faces off like Haku in Japan or something like that. Says that they're rabid and ready to take on the MMA dudes or whatever at Rampage Grand Slam. So yeah, we will be getting Jericho and Hager versus the Men of the Year on Friday. Like I said, maybe that's happening as we speak. So next up we get another big match here, Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes. And we saw the return of Brandy Rhodes in this match. She was in Cody's corner, as well as Arn Anderson. And I kind of noticed, I may be wrong. So first of all, Malachi Black had an amazing entrance as always. And then Cody came out, and I think I may have heard boos. I'm not 100% sure. But I think he was getting booed a bit. So Black is clearly the favorite here, even though he's the heel. So into the match. The first thing that stood out to me is Black doing his signature springboard. He flips in the air and then sits down. Brandy comes into the ring, sits down in front of him, and just flips him off and says, "Fuck you." It was like kind of hilarious. So Cody gets back into the ring at this point, and Malachi's quickly able to latch onto Cody with some crazy like octopus submission hold. Cody's able to land a disaster kick to Malachi Black on the outside, heads up top, goes for a dive but eats a knee that just totally didn't connect, and obviously was supposed to but didn't. So that goes to commercial, and back from commercial, Black gets literally like seconds back from commercial. Malachi Black is able to land his black mass to Cody, kicks his fucking head off. The guy, he, I was about to say he sold it like so perfectly, but if you notice, for the rest of the match, he had like this big ass mark on his head. I'm like, oh, I think he actually got kicked in the head. And anyway, Cody rolled out of the ring after getting kicked, and he's able to sort of get the upper hand and lands a dragon screw later on. And at this point, it was when I was noticing like there's this big ass mark on Cody's head. Black is picking up Cody for a black mass, the signature with his foot, like the classic. Cody positions for a crossroads. Black escapes. Rhodes lands another Cody, not another, it's the first one. He lands a Cody cutter and is able to connect a crossroads afterwards. That leads to a near fall. Arn is protesting on the apron. I don't know if it happened, but I heard the announcer saying like Arn slipped off the apron. I think he like botched. He was like trying to do the protest and he like slipped. And then he was like, oh, he went back up. So he's protesting on the apron, and Black pushes Cody into him and knocks him off the apron. So Cody's concerned. So quickly lands a hook kick to Malachi and goes and checks on Arn. Arn's like just pissed off. He's like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Why are you checking on me? Go back to the match. And so Cody goes back and he's landing strikes in the corner to Malachi. And then just Bizarro Land happened where Cody just like elbows the ref in the face, and I swear it wasn't like Malachi pushed him, and he just just like I was comparing it, talking to my wrestling expert friend Allie, and I was like, what the hell happened? He's like, you just elbowed him in the face. I was like, yeah, I thought I saw that. I was like, why? Did you like turn heel? I don't know. Anyway, Cody knocked out the ref for whatever reason. And then Malachi just spits this black shit into Cody's face. And Cody sells it and falls, and then Malachi just pins him, and that's how the match ended. So that was weird. But I was really happy that, Malachi got the win. There's no reason for Cody to win against this guy right now. And match was good. I loved that black mass from the commercial break. That was like such a sick spot. So next up, we're going to see FTR with Tully Blanchard versus Sting and Darby Allin. Right before that, though, we saw a little preview for Miro versus Sammy Guevara for the TNT title. And Miro's just doing his normal promo, talking about his wife, and says that he demands pain for Sammy. Says he'll expose Sammy's weakness and calls him a fool. Sammy says that he's going to buy Fuego a new car when he wins the TNT title. So hopefully he wins. So into the match here. So FTR is coming out for their entrance, and they got this NWO theme gear, except it's FTR. It looks really sick. And Sting gets a big entrance as well as Darby. Crowd is just nuts as they've been throughout the entire show. So the match begins, and I think it was Darby and Cash, something like that. Anyway, Darby was quick to tag in Sting, and so it's Sting against Cash Wheeler at this point. However, Cash is able to corner Sting, and FTR gain the advantage until Sting lands clotheslines and slams to both guys. Sting goes for a Stinger Splash, nobody home. FTR go for the attack. Sting, at one point he fell down doing a falling headbutt thing, but then I swear he just fell and couldn't get back up. It was kind of a strange spot. However, I will say that Sting looked freaking excellent in this match. For his age, 63 or however old he is, he looked as great as a person his age could possibly look, so I really hand it to Sting. Did a great job in this match. Darby lands coffin splashes to FTR, which I think are the mid-rope springboard coffin drops. He does attempt a coffin drop to both guys outside. They actually catch him, throw him onto the apron. Back from commercial, we see Tully is teasing. He has a towel teasing to wipe the paint off their faces. Doesn't actually do it. FTR has control against Darby until Darby quickly rolls through for a tag. Sting face plants both guys, lands a spine buster to Dax for a near fall. FTR is going for a pile driver finish. However, Sting pushes Cash as he's on the top rope. Sting pushes Cash down to ringside and lands a crossbody to Dax for a near fall. Uh, Dax also rolls up Sting, also for a near fall. At one point, Dax was straight up just going for a tombstone pile driver. Sting counters and looked like he was setting up for a Scorpion Death Drop Coffin Drop combo, because he was setting up for the Scorpion Death Drop and Darby head up top, but FTR was able to escape that. Sting lands Stinger splashes to both guys, lands a Death Drop to Cash, who was the illegal man at the time. I don't recall when, but apparently there is a chair propped in the corner, and Sting dodges it as he's thrown into it. Instead, he throws Dax into the chair, punches Tully in the face before locking in the Scorpion Deathlock to Dax. Darby does a coffin drop to Cash, who's trying to save Dax on the apron, and Sting submits Dax Harwood for the win. Pretty damn fantastic match. It may have been Sting's best match in AEW this whole time. You know, the cinematic match was great, but this in-ring, nothing beats in-ring wrestling, right? And yeah, this is as good as it got. So before the main event, we take a look at a couple things. So we get to see a promo recap from Rampage last week between Soho and Baker. And afterwards, we took a look at the upcoming Rhodes to the Top reality show, which I think they said is premiering within the next week or so. In the show, we see stars like Jade Cargill, Red Velvet. We see Paul White, Ricky Starks, others. And it looks pretty interesting. It is going to be exposing some of the backstage stuff. There's one small clip that they had in there where it's the doctor... Is it Dr. Samson? He's telling Ricky Starks about when he got injured and had to not wrestle, he wasn't cleared. So they're clearly showing what goes on backstage, for real, showing real stuff on the show. So I may check it out, see if it's any good. I'm pretty interested. So time for the main event, at least for us. As for New York, they're still enjoying some incredible wrestling. I'm incredibly jealous. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who has by her side Rebel and Jamie Hayter, versus Ruby Soho for the AEW Women's World Championship. And the crowd did kind of die down a little bit more for this match, but they were still pretty great throughout. Into the match, the women are fighting for control. Ruby's able to land a big knee at one point. She heads up top and dives onto Rebel and Hayter on the outside, but Baker's able to land a thrust kick. Baker perches Ruby onto the apron for a swinging neck breaker. And Ruby, with her knees at one point, shoves Baker's face into the bottom turnbuckle, and she starts running these landing kicks. Baker lands a huge elbow. Ruby lands a back suplex and a thrust kick. Baker returns with a thrust kick of her own. Thrust kick, super kick. I don't know what the difference even is. I guess the name is based on the part of the match that it takes place in. If it's in the climax of the match, then it's a super kick. If it just happens out of nowhere, it's a thrust kick. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. Britt lands a sling blade. Rebel puts the glove on Britt, and Britt's going for a curb stomp before locking in the lockjaw, but Ruby's able to reverse into a leg submission. Ruby catapults Britt into the corner turnbuckle and lands an enziguri, heads up top, lands a senton. Baker's able to land a neck breaker as well as another thrust kick for a near fall. At this point, Ruby's positioning to suplex Britt on the outside of the ring. Baker's able to counter into an avalanche air raid, pretty big ass move, for a near fall. Baker crashes Ruby's face onto the stairs on the outside and is able to land a curb stomp for a near fall. Ruby Soho lands her new future kick. I'm not sure if that's her signature or finisher move or whatever. Jamie Hayter interferes and pulls Ruby's face onto the top rope or something like that. Baker is able to lock in the lockjaw for the win. They had Ruby Soho tap out here. So still our women's champion is Britt Baker. Ruby Soho couldn't get the job done here. Perhaps they'll continue the story. It wasn't a fair loss. But oh my god, what a wrestling show! This was just better than All Out. Just this 2 hours, let alone the next 2 hours. I'm extremely excited for Friday night. I of course will be here to cover that, so be sure to stay tuned. Let me know what you thought of the Brian Danielson Kenny Omega match. Like, to me, that was like seriously one of the best matches I've ever seen. That just made this whole show for me, and made the rest of it incredibly enjoyable too. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks for stopping by as always for your Dynamite coverage. Again, we'll be back Friday, guys. Take care.